Team is such a key word that we use in our content. So whether that be our promotional content or our written or our educational content, we very much lean into, you're not trying to find a broker or an insurance broker, mortgage broker, whatever it is. You're not trying to find them just for this renewal. You're trying to find someone that you know you can ring up if you have a question, if you have a challenge. That person's part of your team. Like, you know, when you go to your 9 to 5, you've got a team you can rely on. Because once you've got that reliable relationship, as you said, well, then you don't have the stress of, I've got a question, where do I go? But speaking of where do you go, if you're a broker, where do you find these?
Yeah, and that's the $1 million question, is where do you find these big behemoths, these individuals that will make your quarter, your month, your year, whatever that happens to be. And we'll hold our hands up. There will never be a better source of new business than referrals, right? And we acknowledge that's just the truth. But if you don't have the referral base at the moment, or perhaps you're struggling to find these high value clients, what we do at Data Never Dies is major on building those relationships on your behalf. So as you mentioned there, Nikki, we major a lot on the team aspect. And what we specialize in is speaking to these individuals and making sure they trust us implicitly on who they should partner with to do, whether it be one of their portfolio or multitude of their portfolio. That's really where we specialize. A bit of a shameless plug as well, to be quite honest with you. I appreciate we perhaps haven't planned this as much, but we're proud of that. We're proud of the relationships we're able to build. We've been speaking to landlords since 2018, believe it or not. We speak to, on average, 77,000 landlords, our community, every 3 to 6 months. And all we do is advise them. We listen, we understand, we have expertise in-house around things that matter to landlords. And when that landlord has a requirement, we understand what it is, right? And then we place it with a broker who we vet and we know has the requisite quality, reputation, price, output, speed of delivery, all of these really, really important things. We partner those individuals, and if this is not too much of a cringe phrase, that's when the magic happens, man.
I mean, from my point of view, speaking as somebody who kind of onboards these people, something else that is really key to what we do, and yes, this is a bit of a plug, but it's also something a broker can consider doing on their own. It is a bit of work, but there is a nurture element. So for us, if we onboard data and they're not quite ready to go, if they've just been like, oh, I just thought I'd download your ebook, just have a little read, I'm not really thinking about it for another 6 to 9 months, they continue to get really high value content from us, whether that be about changes in the interest rate, you know, how the cost of living crisis is affecting things. So yes, we can do that for you, but that's also something to bear in mind. Like you say, you can't just ring them up, you know, you haven't spoken to them for 2 years. Oh, your remortgage is due, I'll sort that out for you. That just doesn't fly anymore.
And perhaps a question back to you, if I may, Nikki. High value landlords or high value clients, how do they consume media? Are they any different from you and I, or where should a broker be targeting their efforts? What do you think is someone who lives and breathes this stuff?
I think that we assume that because they're high value, they're going to be running around doing, you know, life very differently to the average person. Pretty much everyone has social media these days. Pretty much everybody, you're on a train, you're on a long journey, you're, you know, chilling out of an evening, you're scrolling. So social media for me is absolutely the best place. It's an open marketplace. There's no classism there. You know, you don't only have access to Facebook if you earn over a certain amount. It's the absolute best place to go. From my point of view, you should be trying to utilize as many platforms as possible. So, 15, 20 years ago, I think we only had Facebook and maybe Instagram. These days, there's TikTok, there's Threads, there's, you know, various other meta things that you can use, YouTube. You should try and use as many platforms as possible, because no one person is going to have everything.
And the day of the newsletter once every 3 months doesn't seem to cut it anymore.
It really doesn't. And even I definitely think there is a lot of value in a captive audience via your newsletter. But you need again, nurture. You need to nurture that. You need to be providing value with that. Otherwise, people are going to hit spam. They're going to hit unsubscribe. So that's something that we really work hard to do, is actually provide useful content for customers, so that when they get it, it's worth reading. They open it up on their lunch break and they go, okay, cool, what is going on with the world?
I think that's such an important point. Like, content for content's sake doesn't work. And
No.
it's very easy, and you've told me about this countless times, very easy to get caught in the trap of, well, I'm doing something, so that means I must get some sort of output. And that's not always the case, right? The quality needs to be there, the consistency needs to be there, the call to actions need to be there, all of those types of things. And like you mentioned, Nikki, that's what we major on. That's our bread and butter, right?
I think it's really important to remember that, social media, it's called social media because that's what it started as. Back in the day, it was just a case of, Facebook launched to connect people within a university, and you used it to speak to friends and family. Instagram was the same. That's not what that is anymore. The social element of what these businesses do is no longer at the forefront. They are there to make money. So you absolutely have to, they're constantly changing the algorithm. So just when you've hacked it, they come in, they tweak it, they don't tell you how they've tweaked it. So that's something to really bear in mind, that just by being social on social media doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get the results that you want. You have to be much more strategic. I did have a question for you. You mentioned, well, we've both mentioned the cost of living crisis.
Yes.
I haven't seen from my side of the business a drop in high value landlords because of that. But what about, you talk to brokers all the time, what do you feel that there is are people tightening their belts? Are they not expanding their portfolios? What are you seeing?
Really good question. And there has been a very subtle dip, or the feedback I hear from our broker community is, yes, there has been a dip in those seeking buy-to-let mortgages. Within regards to high value clients or high value landlords specifically, there is a small element of selling off. I think the economy is almost lending itself to that at the moment. I know there's been, whatever your political persuasion, some uncertainty in guild markets, uncertainty in the economy, that's perhaps leading to some high value landlords cashing in their chips. Having said that, there will always be a massive buy to let market, despite the change Rachel Reeves and Angela Rayner bringing in. There just will be, right? And whilst landlords, yes, of all shapes and sizes are tightening their belts, they are desperate for advice on how to do that. And it may well not be that the initial mortgage needs to be cheaper than another, for example. What it needs to be is a strategic partnership with a transformational outcome for that landlord over a set of properties. And that's where you win, and that's where you retain that business, would be my view. And that's what I hear a lot. And what we try to target, or who we try to target specifically, are those individuals who aren't just looking for the cheapest, who aren't just looking for the best price, but need true partnership to achieve their goals as a high value landlord.
Well, I think a high value landlord is more likely to understand the value of investment.
100%. Couldn't phrase it better myself. I probably could have shortened that whole piece to just that sentence, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
I think the really fantastic takeaway from this is that therefore you don't have to be one of these massive, multi-seat brokerages. You can be quite a small brokerage as long as you are offering the quality of service that people want to invest in, because these are people, they're not trying to get a residential, they're not trying to get their first buy to let and they're scraping their pennies together. These are people who understand, that old phrase, you have to speculate to accumulate. You have to invest to see a return.
No, I completely agree. They're around these individuals. They're not always looking for the biggest and baddest broker, the name. They're looking for really sound advice, and it all comes down to that, relationships and advice, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was fantastic. I'm really glad to record
Good
on
first
this.
attempt.
we were having this conversation and we just thought, hang on, we're going to hit record on this. This could be useful. So just a very quick kind of summing up. Social media is your friend, but don't get tricked by the word social. You can absolutely find people, but you have to be strategic and you have to put the work in. Nurturing them is really, really important. Do not ever, we're called Data Never Dies for a reason. Do not think that a lead that isn't ready to convert today is lost forever. It really isn't. And shameless plug, if you can't do that all on your own, because that is quite a lot of work, just give us a call, or more, accurately, give John a call.
Give us a chat. Thanks for your time, mate. I really enjoyed that. That was great.
And we'll be back, have another chat soon.